Randy. Hey, welcome Rosina. Salut Raymond. Nice to see a lot of familiar faces. Make yourself comfortable. This is the final and last session of PowerSkills. The Courage Strikes Back. So we had an amazing past few days, and it's continuing today with the last and final session with Bharath. So stay tuned and try taking some notes, try enjoy and adding conversations here. I see also, hi, Deborah. Nice to see you here also. Now, to tell you a little bit more about how it's going to go, I guess you all know by now, but the session is recorded. We're going to be sharing the recording with you and also additional links on how to contact Bharath or us. And we really encourage you to use the chat as much as you can. Let us know how you're feeling. And now I'll introduce the amazing facilitator, my manager, who made all of this possible for the second time. And we want to give her a nice and warm welcome. So it's your turn to shine, Rosalia.
Well, thank you. I'm certainly not the one who made it happen. The wonderful team made it happen, including Nayo, who's just a wonderful colleague. And welcome all of you. It's been a wonderful 3 days. I thank you for hanging out until the very end. That's incredible. And this is, as Nayo said, our last session. We have a great guest today. And this is going to be more of like a conversation and very casual, as it is an intimate group. Please feel free to ask your questions, whatever they may be. My sister's in this group, Rosina. She's a recruiter, so we could also talk recruiting, but let's make this a wonderful and meaningful conversation. And I'm so happy and thankful that we have our final guest today. And I really hope I get this name correctly. It is very easy to pronounce, but I'm having my issues. It's Bharath Sivasubramanian. Is that good? Okay. I'm happy it's good. And without
close
any
enough.
more, close enough. Can you say it so that we
Bharath Sivasubramanian. So yeah, it's
okay.
Yeah, it's pretty long. It's pretty long, but it's quite phonetic, the name. But, yeah.
So thank you so much, Bharath, for joining us, and thank you everyone here to be with us today. Well, I'm gonna start by asking a few questions, but then please do jump in. But the first thing we'll do is just ask Bharath to say a few words about himself.
Sure. Thanks, Rosalia, and you. Thanks everyone for joining us in this session. I really appreciate it. So yeah, Bharath Sivasubramanian. I just to give you a quick sort of elevator pitch about myself. I was born in India when I was about 12 years old. My family moved to Kenya, so I lived there for about 8 years. Did my schooling and everything, and then did my bachelor's in electrical engineering in the U.S. And halfway through that, my family moved over to Canada, to Toronto. So I wanted to naturally come and stay in Canada, but, live in Canada, but close to my parents, but not too close. So that's why I decided to come to Montreal. And at the same time, I wanted to do my master's at McGill. So I ended up doing my master's in electrical engineering at McGill. And got a job, worked in the industry as an electrical engineer for a while, met my wife over here, got married. Now we live in the South Shore in Longueuil. We have a house and we have a 4.5-month-old daughter. And also along the way, I did my MBA at Concordia. So after that, right now I'm working in a software company as an account manager. So basically, I did this sort of transition move from working as a technical engineer in the field in telecom and software engineering to being an account manager. Basically, my role is to handle commercial relationships between the company where I work at, Nakisa, and a portfolio of customers who are basically Fortune 1000 companies, big companies in various different verticals, and commercial discussions, negotiating deals and other contracts and everything. So that's basically what I do, and here I am. Sorry, I think you're on mute. Sorry, but. Yeah.
Oh my God, this is the last time I hear that today. You're on mute, Rosalia. Thanks, Bharath. We were talking before the session, and Bharath was saying that his professional career was pretty linear. But he's very interested in the fact that so many people working in STEM or as computer programmers don't have STEM backgrounds, and actually was saying that up to 35% of women who work in the industry are not from STEM backgrounds. So do you want to talk a little bit about that, Bharath, and why that interests you?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, keeping in line with the theme of the conference, which is, resilience and reskilling. My career path, as I was mentioning, was very linear. I've always, stayed in technology. That's what I wanted to do, throughout my life. I wanted to, be an engineer. I used to listen to, growing up in Africa, I used to listen to the shortwave radio with my dad, and wanted to get into telecommunications to really understand how the technology works. And then, I got my first job after school at Ericsson, in Montreal. And then, so, my career path has been very linear, very very boring, if you if you want to look at it that way, because I've been in technology, got my degrees in technology, in specializing in telecommunications during my master's, and started working in telecom after graduation. But then along the line, what I find interesting is that I've come across so many people who are working in technology, who are working in tech companies, who don't have the STEM background. So they don't come from a background in science, technology, engineering, or mathematics, but yet they're actually working and have these fantastic flourishing careers, doing tech jobs, working as software developers, as coders. And I've always been fascinated by them, and inspired by how they've been able to make this change, or navigate through what is a significant transition, going from a completely different field on to technology, which is a very highly specialized field. So I've always been fascinated by that, and intrigued, because I am inspired at the same time. So, and I've had a lot of conversations with folks like that, and how they managed to make this change. And so I've managed to gather a few general points, or general sort of observations based on my conversations with them. And that's what I wanted to kind of share during this talk, as an example of resilience and reskilling. So yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. So I'm curious then, what attracted the attendees to this conference? Are you thinking of transitioning, and particularly, is there anyone particularly interested in transitioning into IT who's not necessarily from that background, or even just transitioning in general, professionally speaking? Randy, yes.
Yeah, maybe just a slight transition on my part is what attracted me to attend today.
Great, good to know that there's some interest in the audience. And yeah, I'm like as I mentioned, I'm happy to share some of the general observations that I've had based on my discussions with these folks who are non-STEM folks doing tech jobs in the tech industry. So one of the main observations that I've seen is that these people have actually learned to code, and they've decided to invest the time and the resources to actually get themselves certified in in one or more coding languages. Like, for example, the top few languages in 2020 or 2021 when it comes to computer programming are Java and Python. And so these people have basically taken the time to take a few courses to get themselves certified, and of course the School of Continuing Studies at McGill offers those kinds of courses as well, which is great. And if you're really thinking of retooling and getting into the tech industry, and you come from a non-STEM background, don't worry about it. All you have to do is just get yourself certified, get that skill, so you can put that on your CV. But then once you've done that, right, they've not just stopped right there, right? What they've gone on to do is like publish examples of their work online. So if they've done some kind of if they've created some software, an app, or some sort of tool, web tool, then they've published it on their in a site somewhere, and that again has kind of created that credibility about, the fact that they've actually gone on, like, even though they, they have a degree in like music or in English, but they've actually gone on to, do something in technology, in software design, and they've actually been able to publish it. That goes a long way when you can not just talk the talk but walk the walk, and you have actually the proof, like the results to prove it, and that establishes credibility. And what I also see from these people, some of them have, like, to be honest with you, these folks have been like, they can actually, they know more, and in fact I find that they're much more passionate about technology than even, software engineers themselves, like people who have those degrees in software engineering. And what they've done is they've basically gone into continuous learning mode, and they're always, improving their programming skills. They're constantly challenging themselves to learn more and to build up on the skills that they have. And one other thing, if I may, which thing that they've done is, it is tough as it is to get a job in the tech industry with a background in technology. But then what people have done, who've not had, who come from a non-STEM background, what they've also done is they've actually networked more. Because you really have to prove that you belong with the techies, so they've networked more. They have a broader network of professional network of folks that they've leveraged to get those jobs. And so so basically it's come down to learn Java, Python, get a certification, make sure that you publish your work online, have some meat behind what you say, what you put in your resume, and then learn continuously and do more in networking. And I'm sure if you're interested in making that change, it will happen. It's tougher. It's not easy. It's not a cakewalk if you come from a non-STEM background to get into STEM, but it's definitely possible. I mean, as I mentioned as we were talking about at the beginning of this session, 35% of women who have STEM jobs, who have jobs in science and technology, actually don't have a background in science and technology. So that's a pretty interesting number that I found. So it's definitely possible, but yeah, you gotta work hard as it is with anything, but it's definitely possible. Yeah. So back to you, Rosalia.
Of course, please. People rather hear you than me. They've heard me all week, and this is your expertise. Right. And I was curious. Yeah, when Bharath told me 35%, I just couldn't believe that. That is a significant number. Yeah. And I was going to ask you, what separates? And did you notice, what it is? Do these people have different something that you can notice that these perhaps were people who were not originally in STEM? And you actually answered that question. And I'm wondering when it's somebody's second career, if that's some statements we could make about them in general. Perhaps when it's your second career, are you more passionate? Perhaps in your first career, especially if it's something you wanted to do from the beginning, and you kind of rolled with it, and then you have that, and then you realize, no, I really want to do something else. And so you're taking that effort, perhaps in mid-career, midlife, and making that transformation and making that, and I wonder if that means, perhaps you're more passionate about what you're doing. So I wonder if that's could be said about, in general, people who are transitioning professionally. Any thoughts on that, anyone? Or
yeah, I would say definitely they're more passionate people in general, for sure.
Yeah, and that it's curious because we see a lot of people at CAT, so that's Career Advising and Transition Services, where Nayo and I work, and we're the ones who hosted this session. What we see is a lot of people are obviously professionally transitioning for two reasons. Either one, they're new to the country, and of course that means a whole new labor market, a whole new culture, and a lot of them have to change careers because the degrees they might have had in their home countries are not accredited here. Mm-hmm. And we see a lot of people who actually come to McGill School of Continuing Studies because they want to transition into a new career. And as Bharath said, so they'll take a certification that leads them to this new career. And it's interesting that the people we see, we could say a lot of them are incredibly passionate. They work hard. And it's something about having to make that transformation that lends them to perhaps have these qualities. But we've certainly, Nayo can attest to that. the people we see are just, by and large, extremely hardworking, very passionate, and have determination that you don't necessarily often see. So
yeah,
that's
and one other thing which they have is they seem to have built up like analytical skills, right? Which are very important to be successful in the tech field, right? They seem to have that even though they don't come from the STEM background. And what an education in engineering or science teaches you is analytical skills, right? How to think objectively and how to logically arrive at the solution to a problem, right? Using the tools that you have. And they seem to have had those analytical skills built up, through their experiences professionally or through the life experiences. And many of the folks that I see have actually, had backgrounds in social sciences, for example, like psychology, sociology, economics. So, if you have those analytical skills from the beginning, that really helps you to kind of, learn, those technical skills, like, software design and stuff. So it's definitely doable. And what I find interesting is that these days startups, especially in Montreal, are more open to hiring, people with a broader background than just that narrow background in technology. So that it's definitely, the scene is opening up. And and as well as big established companies like Google, Apple, Facebook, the big four tech companies are also looking for people with, that broader profile than just, the technology, because of course it helps to it not only helps them with their corporate diversity goals, they can put that on their site saying, hey, we have hired so many people with different backgrounds, but it also, in terms of contribution of ideas, it helps them a lot, right? Because people who've had all their careers in technology think a certain way, but if you have, if you come from a different background and then you get into tech, you're bringing those those experiences that you've had outside of technology also into your role. So yeah, it's definitely something that's coming up. You see a lot more of that happening these days. So
it's nice to hear that we're less rigid in general society with, okay, this is your background. Doesn't mean you don't have those skills and can apply them elsewhere. So it's nice to see. And certainly, Rosina, as a recruiter in tech, is that your experience too, Rosina? Do you see people with more diverse backgrounds in terms of their skills and education coming into IT?
Yeah, I was just about to write something in the chat, and definitely there's a lot of what I've noticed in the last year. So many boot camps, right, that are available for people who want a crash course in programming, and I hadn't seen that before as much, And I just recently hired somebody. I'm a recruiter in an IT company, cybersecurity. And I just hired somebody recently in quality assurance, and we decided to invest in him because he has the right personality, the right mindset. He's very analytical, and he recently did one of these boot camps. And so I agree with everything you're saying, Bharath.
Yeah,
and what was the back? Oh, I'm so sorry. Please go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. So I was about to say, yeah, that's a really good point, Rosina. Yeah, boot camps are just really becoming more and more popular, and it's not just a trend. They actually help you in a very tangible way, because in a very short period of time you get that skill set that you need to go into tech and to be successful. So yeah, boot camps, if you have the time and ability to invest in a boot camp, and if you're thinking of going along that route into technology, then definitely get into a Java boot camp or a Python boot camp. That would really take you places as far as your career is concerned. And you mentioned something really interesting about QA, quality assurance. Quality assurance is one of those interesting fields in technology, or roles in technology, where you don't necessarily need a STEM degree. You just need good logical skills to test something, right? You don't really need to know about that software for you to be a tester of software. You just need to apply logical principles to see if a certain test case passes or fails. So you can definitely succeed as a QA, as a tester. Of course, if you go to attend a few boot camps to really understand, get the basics of what programming is all about. So yeah. definitely.
Absolutely. I've been hiring quite a few people in QA that have different backgrounds that maybe are in science as well. Like, maybe some of them came from engineering, like mechanical engineering. And I just recently hired somebody who was in, I think, in procurement in his country, and another person who was a lawyer in his country. So yeah, definitely. And Montreal is the place to be if you're in technology. You're gonna have a job guaranteed for life.
Yeah, definitely. And Montreal is becoming a little bit of an AI hub, artificial intelligence and machine learning hub. You have companies like Element AI, for example, and few of those other companies in that field who are opening up, who are really kind of putting Montreal in the map as far as AI is concerned. And again, if you drill down to what sort of skills, technical skills you need to be a software designer, even in a field that seems so complex and like high tech as AI, it comes down to knowing a few things like Java or Python. If you can go out there and get yourself certified, if you want to work in AI as a software developer, get a Java certificate or a Python certificate, and then that's it. Doors are going to open in that field.
And that's something I didn't know when I've been at the School of Continuing Studies for a couple of years. And I remember when I joined, we have programs like machine learning. And I was wondering, well, are these people taking these with IT backgrounds? And most of them are not, which I thought was so fascinating at the beginning. How could you go into something like machine learning and not necessarily have the background? And then I've learned more that, yeah, it's about some of these other skills that are definitely transferable. So, and it is certainly one of our most popular programs at the school. So there is not only a lot of jobs in Montreal, certainly a lot of interest in this area. And I was going to ask, given COVID, IT is one of the areas that has been, I would say, less affected in terms of job losses. I'm sure there's a lot of differences in how things work, but can you talk a little bit about that? And do you think that people are now looking to IT as something that's more stable, perhaps, than other industries as we move forward beyond COVID as well?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. IT has withstood COVID, and in fact, IT has grown during COVID. And it's one of the few industries, like especially if you're an, cloud service provider, that industry, cloud services, software as a service has like really grown, exponentially, quite contrary to what's been happening. Probably pharmaceuticals and cloud service providers are probably the two sort of industry verticals that are growing, and a lot of it has got to do with the fact that when you're forced to really distance yourself physically from man is a social animal. You really need some sort of social interaction, and if you can't get that by physically meeting someone, you'll have to go through technology to meet those needs. So yeah, and that's probably the reason why I think IT, if you have a role or a job in the IT industry, I think it's more or less secure. I mean, of course, it is prone to hiring. Sometimes you could have layoffs even in the tech industry. That's an unfortunate reality of the situation of current times, but it's definitely more stable than other fields, I would say, at this point.
Yeah, even if it's cyclical, there's still that need that doesn't. Yeah,
absolutely. That need would not go away. And you bring up an interesting point about COVID and how technology has helped during COVID times. And if at all you have if you are someone who's a software developer or a web designer, then you could go to and if you're like make this wanting to make that change and want to go into technology as your full profession, you could actually go to sites like Donate Code or Benetech or Social Coder, where it's basically websites where they match software designers with companies that are looking for freelance software developers, especially during the time of COVID, to do projects for them. So you basically, they call it high-tech volunteering for good causes. So you can basically lend your coding skills to do a small, software. You could set up the website for a school for a small medium business or something like that. You could set up an IT system for. So there are sites like that. Social Coder, donatecode.com. So you could go to sites like that and really do whatever little you can during these times to help out during COVID. Yeah.
And do you know if that Data for Good, because we've worked with them, are you familiar with them? Is that, I'm guessing, I think that's the same concept.
Yeah, similar concept. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So you got Social Coder, Donate Code, Benetech. So yeah, there are sites like that.
Thank you. And actually, we have a question from Deborah. She said, what about virtual platforms in terms of IT growth? I think there's a lot of room for creativity in that area, because the experience right now, she says, could be rather flat.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of growth in terms of, because these virtual, video conferencing platforms and everything were kind of in their infancy, or they were not, those technologies were not really well developed. And until COVID came along, and then you're seeing this like explosion, this exponential growth. So I'm sure there's a lot of work that needs to be done with these platforms to make them more user friendly, to make them more interactive. Yeah, so definitely that's that's an area which is going to I'm sure it's going to experience a lot of growth in the future. Yeah.
It's a good question, Deborah. And it's funny because in February of 2020, I had never heard of Zoom. And by March, it had become my life and where I conduct all my work and social. So it's fascinating. And even in that time, they have, of course, made some changes and improvements. But yeah, it's going to be interesting, I think, to see where they go and how, what else they could add to make it, less flat, because it certainly has its limitations. But
yeah, I'm sure with time, I'm sure, in the next year or two, you're going to see the new look Zoom or the new look web conferencing software is just going to be miles ahead of where we are. That's how technology is, right? It grows quite fast, especially when there's a real need. And now the market has identified a real need. So it's only going to get better from here.
For sure. Necessity is the mother of invention, right? I'm sure before Zoom was, used by certain people, but had, it's very niche group of people who used it. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what the percentages are, but the number of people who use it on a daily basis and talk about them having to pivot and make some changes that make it more accessible and interesting. Right. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, if I may.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Randy.
Okay. Hi, thank you. Bharath, thanks for your time this afternoon. One of the reasons that attracted me to this meeting is I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, and I noticed that you were a customer success manager in a prior role. So that to me is a soft skill. I know today we're talking about technical skills, but where do you see that type of role going forward?
Fantastic question. So customer success management and account management is probably a growth area. That kind of a role is a growth area. So just to give everyone a background of what a customer success manager or an account manager does. So especially when you have these companies that provide software as a service. So basically, you have a software which is not built or set up in a server. It's somewhere in the cloud, and then you have a client that goes and uses that software. A customer success manager is basically someone who has, for example, if the company that I work at, Nikisa, we have cloud software that we sell to portfolio of clients, right? So each client gets a customer success manager who's going to work very closely with them, sort of as a consultant, to really help them understand how that software works, and to really stay with them throughout their customer journey, and really help them to understand how the platform works, so that that client, in this case, whoever we sold that software to, can be successful during their journey. So during the customer journey. So a good example would be software like e-commerce software or mobile commerce software, where the platform can be so complicated with so many nuts and bolts. Like these are business to business platforms, where the setting up of the platform itself and basically the business outcomes that you want to achieve from that platform can be so complicated. So you really if you're a client and I sold you this platform, you'd probably be clueless without a customer success manager to help you really understand how to set it up so that you can achieve the outcomes that you'd like to get. So to cut a long story short, if you are looking for careers in the software as a service industry, definitely customer success management is it's a growing field or growing skill set. Definitely that's gonna, more and more companies who are going into cloud are going to be hiring customer success managers. And for you to be a successful CSM or account manager, you just need to have pretty good customer skills, communication skills, and also have that sort of consultant mindset, problem solver consultant mindset, and be able to engage your customer. They may tell you something that they want to do, but there may be an underlying reason behind why they want to do what they want to do. So you gotta ask a lot of questions to arrive at the real reason why they want to do something, and then help them achieve that outcome. So yeah, it's definitely an area that's going to grow, that is experiencing a growth. Yeah. Okay. Good question. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, how about a part B to that? And just so everybody knows, here's where I'm coming with. I've got an interview on Monday for a customer success manager role with Oracle. So also, just for pure transparency to everybody, I'm currently not working. I lost my job last October. I was a Scrum Master with 2 teams, and I was also doing IT project management. So I'm looking to try to kind of make sure if something happens in the future, I can land. So how about this? I was talking to one of the guys I know at Oracle, and he said that, if you can get into Oracle or another big company like, Salesforce or Amazon or Microsoft, you're working in the SaaS world, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service. The big 4, like your E&Ys, KPMG, PricewaterhouseCoopers, they're going to want you in the future. So what do you think about that? Is that a valid statement that, the big 4 consulting firms would look for CSMs? Or
yes,
yeah.
as technology consultants, because as a CSM, what you are, is a consultant. You're working as a consultant for a client, right? Helping them to achieve business outcomes, helping them to be successful in a sort of business, in a very narrow sort of way, for them to have a better outcome within their platform, right? So definitely when you're a CSM, what you end up getting good at is understanding more about how to be a better consultant, how to, if you already have that mindset, or if you already have prior consulting experience, then definitely that's going to help you as a CSM. And then you're going to learn more about being a better tech consultant. And of course, many of these big 4 companies like EY, Deloitte, and everything, they have tech consulting divisions which are pretty big. And so if you can show in your CV that as a CSM you were able to consult with clients and show that, if you're able to successfully show that you were able to drive better business outcomes for your clients as a CSM, then definitely you can also succeed as a consultant with the big 4. Yeah, there's definitely something that there's a direct linkage for sure.
Okay, I needed to hear that. Thank you very much, Bharath. I'll turn it over to the rest of the attendees. Thank you.
Well, I know I want to wish you luck on your interview, and I'm certainly happy that you came to this session. You got that information, but lots of luck to you and much success.
Thank you very much, Rosalina.
You're welcome. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Randy, you can reach out to me because there's a couple of roles that might be interesting for you at our organization. And I also wanted to end off by saying that I've been a recruiter for a long time, and I have a renewed spark for recruiting because of people like Bharath. The candidates that I interview in technology are so passionate and so dedicated to what they do. So Bharath, thank you. I mean, you're the perfect example of why I love recruiting in technology.
Oh, thanks. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to everyone here. Thanks, Rosina, Rosalia. I really appreciate everyone's contribution to this this meeting. Yeah, it was a pleasure again to talk to everyone and to participate. And yeah, good luck to everyone. Good luck, Randy, with your interview. And yeah, all the best to everyone. Hope everyone
thank you. I hope.
Stay
Oh
safe.
yeah, and I hope. Yeah, stay safe. You too, and thank you. Enjoy your new the new addition to your family.
Thanks.
And I hope we can call on you again. Thank you for being so generous and open and authentic. And we were saying at the start that people who are new to the area have a lot of passion, but clearly, even though your career was linear, you obviously have a lot of passion. And thank you for sharing that with us today.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. And for the last time, I say thank you for coming to PowerSkills 2021. We hope to see you at the next PowerSkills, which will likely be in August. Details coming up soon. So thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Thank you.